ready to go.
While you guys get set up, I just want to take a minute and remind that I have requested this as a way to continue the conversation that we started at our last committee meeting about advanced academics. So I have asked for more overview, more detail around advanced academics as a whole. Specifically, I had some very specific questions about our Encore program as well. I think we're calling it Gifted and Talented GATE now. And so we had some follow-up questions from the last time that we were hoping to hear in the presentation being answered today, and then also more information about Encore as a whole. So if you're prepared, if you're ready.
I think they're still in the process of
They're still pulling that up,
so
all right.
It should be momentarily, and then we have some handouts for the board as well.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I'll take this moment right now to say that I have been working with a few groups to create a resolution around advanced academics that we are currently looking at right now, and we hope to bring before the board as an official resolution at our first meeting in January. And it will be concerning advanced academics specifically, where we will be looking at kind of nationwide trends, what's happening in Metro, and then what can we do to make sure that we're being the most equitable and open for all of our students to have access to advanced academics, if at all possible. So that resolution is on deck, and we will see it in January. And it looks like you guys are teed up. I'll let you go ahead and start.
All right. Thank you, Committee Chair Tyler and board members and Dr. Battle and colleagues and community members. It's good to be with you again today to talk about advanced academics. As Chair Tyler mentioned, equity is certainly of concern in everything that we do in the district. It's one of our core tenets, and it's certainly something that we think about regularly in the world of advanced academics. The conversation today really circles around the two core tenets highlighted here about creating and supporting rigorous and engaging learning experiences for our students and identifying and eliminating those inequities. As Chair Tyler mentioned, there were some specific questions that were posed to us, so we will address those here first and then have conversation after. So the first question centers around how we budget for gifted and talented education in the district. So we'll start with the teachers. Each school, of course, has a certain number of students that they serve, so based on that number, schools must allocate within their SBB for the gifted and talented teacher. There is precedent with this staffing model. Other positions and other departments use the same formula or similar formula. Oftentimes this is not a full position, so principals work with our office to make sure that teachers are placed appropriately and we have full positions for everyone. Schools do have the opportunity to supplement through their SBB just like they would any other academic program. But it's incumbent upon us to make sure that schools have what they need so that they certainly can have what is needed to serve their gifted and talented students. These are shared positions, so there is shared ownership for these teachers. So they don't live in our house, they don't live in the schoolhouse solely, but they are shared between our department and the schools. And this certainly has impact, so principals do have input and are able to hire the teacher that they choose. They are involved in the evaluation process, and then our office provides the programmatic structure necessary so that we have successful programs. In addition to funding for teachers, our office covers all costs associated with instructional materials. We cover all of the testing costs. We have support hub staff, so there are 3 positions based out of Robertson Academy. There are 2 pre-K teachers. Those teachers work with our youngest learners in the district, so they serve gifted and talented students and also talent development in our ELCs. And then we fund all professional development for the gifted and talented teachers. That training, this was the second question posed to us. So teachers to be qualified to teach gifted and talented students must come to us with certification in gifted and talented education or they can meet the Tennessee Employment Standard. We currently have 72 educators. 5 of them came to us with that certification. 50 have already met the Tennessee Employment Standard. We have 12 that are currently enrolled in the Vanderbilt program to attain the employment standard. I believe they finish up this week. And then we have 5 new hires that will go through the next available training at Vanderbilt. The employment standard training, just for your information, is similar to a college level course. So teachers go through several weeks of in-person instruction. They have assignments, they have lectures, they have reading assignments, all of those things. And then a final project that focuses on synthesizing all of that information, and everything is tied back to the standards of the National Association for Gifted Children. In addition to this, our Office of Gifted and Talented provides monthly professional development for our teachers. So they had been doing this virtually. I believe they will start meeting in person again. Those are monthly all-day trainings where they have a variety of topics that are covered. And then all new GATE teachers are assigned a mentor. So somebody that's been in the program for a long time works with our newer teachers. The third question really is about Fidelity of Gifted and Talented. This is a big bucket here, so we broke it down into some smaller chunks of information for you. So universal consideration, this is how we determine which students will go through the Gifted and Talented testing process. Prior to now, so this is a new process. Prior to now, we were just provided a list of students and said, test these kids. We are starting a new process this spring. We're excited about this. We do think this will have great impact for us. This is universal consideration. So all students in grades kindergarten through 7 will be considered for testing. They'll fall into 1 of 3 categories. So they're already in Gifted and Talented, they're already on a roster to be tested for whatever reason, or they need to be considered. And we utilize all data available, qualitative and quantitative data, and then schools sign off and say these are the students that should go through the testing process. So again, we're excited about this. This is new, and we do expect this to have big impact. Qualification in the past was, I think in my day, it was a 126. So you either got a 126 and you were in, or you got a 125 or lower and you were not in. We are moving away from that method, and we are utilizing multiple measures and multiple ways to look at data. So this includes assigning points on various factors, and we utilize not only local and age norms, but we are also, not only age and grade norms, but we're also using local norms in some circumstances. So again, this is a new process, and we do expect this to have significant impact. Our curriculum is, we're in the 2nd year of aligning thematic curriculum units. So these units incorporate Tennessee content standards, but then all of these other things here that are rich and help develop our gifted and talented students. These are connected back to real world and connections to college and career readiness. And so teachers build these units, and they're intended to enhance students' academic experience, and they tackle universal themes so that students can make connection to what they're learning in the core content areas. And then in terms of service delivery, we are committed to high quality, equitable delivery of GATE services based on the needs of the student and the school. So while this can't look exactly the same in all schools across the district, we do commit to the idea that there are parameters that we expect schools to follow in terms of time served and how students are pulled out of their core classes. All things listed here are new or relatively new this year. So we're excited about all of this. We hired the new data analyst that has developed most of these things. So we have implemented online testing for all students. We have a big win for us is putting a flag in Infinite Campus so that all gifted and talented students now have a flag that moves with them as they either transfer schools or they move from grade to grade. And that will allow us to track students into high school to make sure that they're accessing those opportunities when they get into high school. And we can also follow these students up to 3 years post-secondary as well. We'll have in data warehouse reports that will measure growth, both in achievement of math literacy and numeracy. We know that growth for our advanced learners is equally important, and so we want to make sure that the program is impactful in that way. And then, as mentioned, the new practices we have for identification and GATE eligibility are in place. And then all of this is on new dashboards with the goal of every student known. So through our partnership with Vanderbilt, with our research practice partnership, we are really testing a lot of these things that we're implementing this year. And we're asking those questions and engaging in action research to see that what we're doing actually has an impact. So we're excited about where this is leading us and what we learn from it. And in terms of diversity, when I presented to you in August, we made the commitment to diversify the program. New students don't enter this program all the time, so it will take time. We have a new process that we'll implement this spring. And so we will see through the universal consideration and the multiple measures qualification system if we have a more diverse population of students entering the GATE program. It is our expectation that that will happen, and we will certainly report our findings. We mentioned last time that we are eliminating the Encore and YSN labels. This rests on the idea that we implemented the YSN as an opportunity to identify students from underserved populations, and now that we have new systems in place to do just that, we don't need labels for different students and how they qualify. Due to having those labels, we were not adequately celebrating the progress that we were making. So between 2011 and 2021, we saw significant growth in the number of students being served through gifted and talented education, and we saw those participation gaps significantly decrease. And then lastly, we are committed to continuously revisiting what we're doing to make sure that that continuous improvement model is happening. So analyze what's happening, make adjustments, and see what next steps need to occur. So as I end, I just reiterate the fact that we are committed to providing high quality service for all of our gifted and talented students. We are committed to addressing this question of equity and making sure that we do everything possible to identify the students that need these services. And at that, I will turn it back over to you guys.
I appreciate that. Do we have any questions? Ms. Puka-Walker and then Ms. Elrod.
So can you talk about the difference between a universal consideration versus a universal screener?
Sure, a universal screener is you test every student. A universal consideration is you use data to inform you of which students are good candidates for testing. So in other words, it's similar to the MTSS model where we analyze all the data available to us and then we take into account several factors that is inclusive of but not exclusive of the qualitative piece. So teachers might be able to provide qualitative data to inform those decisions about which students should be good candidates for testing.
So can parents request testing still?
They can, yes, they can contact the Office of Gifted and Talented, and then we would have to, similar to the STEAM process, we would utilize data to inform those decisions. So we don't just test anybody, but we use data to make those decisions.
So what is the data that you're using?
It's usually the data, the district benchmark data that we have, and then any other data that's available to us. So it's primarily MAP data, we have TN Ready data, we have the early childhood data, anything that's available to us.
Still use teacher screeners and where they have to fill out and parent screeners, those used to also be part of the process. Is that not continuing?
Gina?
To be a matrix.
Yeah.
Yes, so we use the traits and attribute screener for teachers, and then we put that in electronic form so it goes out. Right now, if we have a transfer student or a student that data has come up during the S-team, it goes out now, but in the spring, that will go out to everybody. So that's the teacher screener, and then we've developed the parent screener. And we are getting ready to put that. That's been just paper and pencil, but we're putting that in a form sheet. We worked on that for an hour today, and we've actually developed pathways for parents, more pathways, and we have been getting those read by a lot of people, and those will be published more publicly as they're coming on. So we've tried to move away from just one pathway and that. And in addition to this testing, we've implemented 4 testing windows a year, every other month. So if a transfer student comes in or an S-team happens and a parent wants testing. So in addition, that's the qualitative data because people need direction. So we provide these attributes and then they can give us any other information that they want to add to it.
So my last question is, so my concern with just using map data is that you're going to miss ELs. And so I want to know if there's a plan in place to identify ELs as gifted.
Yeah, so the way that we're addressing that is certainly not relying on one MAP score, one MAP test. We certainly recognize that, and we have take that into consideration, so they can qualify for testing through their numeracy, through any other data points that are there. Teacher input is very important when it comes to that, and so that survey tool that Gina just referenced specifically asks about that.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I'm finishing up my note. I'm so sorry. Okay. So I want to make sure I understand the upcoming process starting in the spring. So the process is going to be what we're calling universal consideration, not a universal screener. And then from there, those students that are universally considered, are they then being tested, or we're not doing the testing any longer unless it is requested by a parent?
So universal consideration is the process through which we identify which students will take the test.
Fine. Okay. I was going to say, I was trying to make sure I understood that. Okay.
Right.
Got it. So then it does sound like we will hopefully have a more diverse population in all of our GATE classes, which of course is our goal and a hope for all of us, I hope and believe. My understanding is that would not just be that would be diversity also in neurodiversity. So do we have any specifics on students that are considered 2E or would have other exceptionalisms that we would need to now be prepared for or start having screeners for or other additional resources?
Yeah, so that's a great question. In the past, again, without the ability to flag our students, we weren't able to capture all of that necessarily in a really comprehensive manner. So now with our flag, we are able to capture that data. We have the new dashboards that capture all of that and say, these are the students that are twice exceptional, and these students might need additional differentiation when it comes to service delivery. We know, for example, if a student needs remediation for numeracy, but they express gifts and talents in other areas, we don't want to compete necessarily with their PLT interventions or anything like that. So we don't want to deny the opportunity for students to access gifted and talented education, and we need to think about how we can provide service differently for those students.
Matt, could I just say one thing about that? So we worked with Exceptional Ed to create a specific pathway for that too. So there will be direction on how EE students who, in addition to maybe going through the IEP process, can also be considered for our program outside of that. And we, Deb McAdams and I and her team worked on creating a pathway. So we do have a specific pathway to address that, and my team will always go to support team meetings and guide that or guide our GATE teachers. And so we are working, that's one of our new pathways that's explicit now.
I know that maybe it seems more new to me, but 2E and twice exceptional is becoming a more common term with most families. Do we have any resources available to families that are trying to figure out what that terminology means and what those resources are within their school, whether they qualify for GATE or not?
So I know those resources exist. National Association of Gifted Children have resources for that. There are other outlets out there that have those resources available. We can do a better job of making sure that they're publicly communicated within our local community.
Okay.
Put it on our website and other forms.
Okay. I would personally appreciate that. I think that's a good best practice.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that there's additional consideration of those students, because the diversity is going to be many different kinds of diverse students. So I appreciate that there's different pathways being considered and they are thought of.
Yeah, if you don't mind me asking, adding Ms. Elrod, we're thinking about that kind of universally around communication and advanced kind of awareness and training around the advanced academics programs in general. And so I think this ties right into that conversation and our planning to make sure that there is more awareness around these advanced academic pathways across all of our clusters.
I think it's,
got it?
yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Bush.
Let me ask you, where are most of the GATE teachers? Where are they located? Where are they, what schools? Are they mostly in high schools or?
They're in every kindergarten, or every elementary and middle school.
Okay, so elementary, middle school, okay. And it follows them through high school?
No, GATE services in 8th grade, and then in high school, it really feeds into course selection, advanced academic opportunities in high school, and so on and so forth. But the GATE program is specifically pre-kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions. So I really like seeing the training for our GATE teachers. Clearly, you guys are making sure that they understand how to support students who are gifted. I did want to ask, it's extremely important to me, how are our just gen ed classroom teachers and principals being trained on how to recognize giftedness? Because if we're relying on a teacher recommendation in some cases, or if a teacher recommendation is needed to do that universal, not the screener, but the consideration, and they don't understand what a gifted student looks like or the traits to look for, it's not going to help our program. So how are we training every teacher and every principal?
Great question. The universal consideration opens the door for that because it is a new process. So in January at the MTSS meeting, it's the expectation, I believe, that all principals will be trained on this new method, all elementary and middle school principals. All of the gifted and talented teachers are also receiving training on how to train their staffs on these things. And so there will be consistent training across all schools, exactly what you're referring to. So we're not just asking teachers to check boxes randomly. We're going to train every educator on this new process, and we're really taking advantage of the new process to do some of that training that needs to happen anyway.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. You've got to know how to teach the students, but you can't teach them if you can't get them in the classroom. So we got to make sure that we know how to identify them. And what a lot of people think of as gifted is not usually how it presents. As a former gifted teacher, it is very often overlooked in some cases, especially if it's a student who is 2E, twice exceptional. They might be ADHD and be gifted. And there's a lot of overlap in our exceptional education services that would also include giftedness. Can you explain why we decided to do the universal consideration as opposed to a screener? I know that Ms. Poopa-Walker asked about that. The universal screener, I understand what I've seen nationally, that best practice is like into second grade to kind of just test everybody in second grade at the end of second grade, and then they would begin the participation in the program at the beginning of third grade. Is there a reason why we decided not to do that and go with the consideration instead?
Part of the issue is that we have universal testing through other methods. So we have the MAP test. We have a lot of data elements that we use to identify students that are academically performing higher than other students. And it's important to note that our program is an academically gifted and talented program. So it's for students who are performing academically higher than their peers. So in other instances where universal screeners are used, it may be intellectually gifted programs or things like that they're trying to catch students. The idea here is that we have a broad set of data for students in all grade levels, and we need to capture what we have to identify students who are already performing at high levels to ensure that those students are the ones that are considered and that we push those students through the testing process. It is a universally recognized practice through the National Association as a best practice for moving forward. Universal screening, of course, has its flaws too sometimes.
Yeah, of course. There's going to be flaws in any, and you just want to find the one that's got the best type of flaws, I guess.
I'd just like to give emphasis to something that Matt mentioned as far as our universal screening process, whether it's MAP, whether it's FAST. We have a variety of academic data that's happening universally multiple times a year, 3 times generally speaking, at the beginning of the year, the winter screening, and the end of the year. Additionally, we have state testing we can use to flag that. So I do think there's still a universal screening component. And so I think you're getting the best of both worlds, really, with the proposal from Matt's department now, with the universal consideration, bringing teacher voice into that process, as well as still having a rich set of academic data that we can use on that.
Well, teacher voice has always been part of the process, always. So that's not a new addition. My kind of concern in really pulling in this MAP data and also hearing you say that we're really focused on academically talented students. When I used to work in the Encore program, we had students who tested in through psychology as gifted students. And then we had students that the Encore teachers administered a test to, and those students would test in and would be coded as academically talented. And those are the students that you would see that would perform well in class and would have that kind of drive and work to think about things, but maybe would not qualify as intellectually gifted underneath a psychologist test. Have we gotten rid of the ability to test in with psychology?
No, we haven't.
Okay, and then if we're focused so much on academic talentedness instead of what do we do for our students who are gifted, but I know in middle school there's a real problem with our gifted students being low performers because they're losing interest, and there's all sorts of, I mean, I could go into a whole, and you know it all, so I won't, but there are a lot of gifted students who do not perform well academically. How are we making sure that we're capturing them, giving them the program, and meeting their needs within that program?
Yeah, so students, of course, can still qualify through the S-Team psychological evaluation model and receive IEP services. So that looks different, and that's not the same thing as the former Encore program. We usually serve students through Encore that qualify both ways regardless, and then they might receive his services above that. But that's a good question. I think that, again, we're resting on the fact that we have to use data to inform our decisions, and so we use the data that's available to us to make those decisions. And then, if there are students, as you said, it can be part of the training that we do with educators and say, look, if you have students that are underperforming, but that have the potential, that's part of this universal consideration process. So teachers do and will have the opportunity to give us that feedback so that those students can be considered.
Yeah, and one structure that every school has in place is their MTSS process, their multi-tier systems of support, which also identifies students who might fall into the category that you just described and kind of customize what those supports look like. And so I just wanted to mention that because that's a consistent structure across all of our MNPS schools.
Question as part of that?
I did. I was just going to say, since we are focusing this program on being academically gifted as opposed to intellectually, can we expect to see an increase in the number of IEPs for intellectually gifted students?
I'm not sure that we can predict that. I mean, I think our goal is to capture as many students who need these services to match the service to the student need. And so however students are identified, we're ready and willing to serve them. But that is certainly an option and a pathway that can be considered if parents and or educators or schools feel that that's the right pathway.
I think there is a big difference in serving academically gifted and serving intellectually gifted, and I think that difference is where a lot of parents would get upset that their child wasn't in Encore because the focus was on more so on the intellectually gifted children, and that was sort of the process for being included in that. So I'm appreciative of that difference, and I think in the cases Ms. Tyler is speaking of, an IEP might actually be more appropriate. But I just want us to be mindful of that in moving forward and in sort of helping parents understand the difference in those two areas, and in what kind of supports we're able to offer.
Yeah. And we have to work in partnership with the Exceptional Education Department in that regard. So, you know, if an IEP is part of the solution, then that would fall into the realm of exceptional education. So we do work in partnership with Debbie McAdams in that department.
I just have a lot of concern around making sure that we're focused on academics, talented, instead of intellectual giftedness. Using map data as part of our touch point and as a way to track the students, other than map, are we tracking any other data other than map when we're flagging them in Infinite Campus and following them along?
Well, the flag is when they're identified, when they qualify.
I know. And so their map data is being tracked from that point on to see if it's continuing to increase, if they're doing all that. Are we tracking anything else or just the map data?
Well, we have the ability to track any data at that point because with that flag, we can run any report with that cohort of students.
Okay, and what is our bar for success then?
It's a good question. We're still defining that. We're actually in the process through the Vanderbilt Research Practice Partnership of setting our theory of action. So if this is the expected outcome of a gifted and talented program, you know, what needs to happen? And so that's part of the questions that are being asked right now through that Research Practice Partnership. And actually some exciting work is going on in that space right now. So we haven't defined the bar of success, but it's one of the key research questions that's out there on the floor right now.
And real quick, what is the definition that we're using for giftedness? Are we using Renzulli's definition? What are we using as our definition of what giftedness is? Okay. Okay, because for people at home, there are different definitions of what giftedness encompasses. There is just sheer IQ, for one. There is not only capability, but are you actually performing and putting that potential to use? And so there's an effort, there is a more than just does your brain have capacity, but does your brain have capacity and are you pushing it to meet that capacity? So there's several different ways that you can define what giftedness is. So I would just be really curious to know how MNPS is following that.
We actually really work with the definition from the NAGC. Academically gifted and talented students require, let's see, that's not the definition. I'm trying to find it here. Sorry, I'm caught off guard. Maybe it's not on here. I apologize. Students who are academically gifted and talented perform or have the capability to perform at higher academic levels compared to others of the same age. And then we go on to say they require sufficient access to appropriate resources, and then we list characteristics in 4 domains on there if you look at our website. So, and the domains are, we have the traits, and then we have the cognitive, the creative, the affective, and the behavior domains that we list.
Okay.
And we cite the NAGC for that. And then, of course, we do recognize the intellectually gifted students, and we work with EE's definition in the state.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's good to know. And then, I had a couple more questions about it. Let me see where I wrote them down. Does anybody else have anything? Yeah, Ms. Bush, go for it.
So, okay, I know this is going to be a new program that kind of replaces Encore, right? Is this kind of going to replace Encore?
It's a naming convention, so it's the same service. We are just not calling it Encore anymore. So it's the Gifted and Talented Education Services now.
So my worry is about the ELs, not ELs, EL students, but students with some disabilities, but are gifted. So let me give you an example. In my child care academy, I have students that come out that are very gifted. They're very advanced, more so than their age group, as you mentioned, as far as what is considered gifted. So this child was a graduation class of mine. I've been having him since he was a baby. He is reading on a third grade level. He knows pretty much all the sets of the sight words. Math, just proficient in so many different areas. Now, he did have some comprehension of following those prompted questions, but otherwise, he was very, very, very gifted. And when he went to our school, traditional school, that was the first thing I thought, Encore. They offered Encore. I was thinking, you got to put him in Encore because I don't want him to get bored, and we know what happened with boredism. The kids act out behavior because they already know it, right? So what do you think happened? Because he didn't qualify. And that word means so much. So I'm glad we're having this conversation because I just kind of want to know, what do you think happened? Because I know his abilities and I know exactly when he left what his skill set was. And it was major. Like, he literally was so far advanced in all of his, within that age group. And so I get a little worried about missing those students because then they start to lose what they've been taught for so long. And then so what's your comment about that?
Well, without knowing the specifics, I would just say we have the system for how students test and how they qualify for Encore.
That was it, the testing.
Yep.
And I think that's what you were talking about. So we're missing those students because he didn't test well, but overall, he was so far advanced. And again, may have some delay with the comprehension, answering questions and things like that. But he's so far advanced. So now he's regressed. And his mother has called me and has major concerns. If he was able to be in Encore, which he should have been, I thought, but because you went off the test, he was not able to move in that direction. So I'm afraid we're going to miss those students. And my recommendation, let's not do that. We need to figure out a way during the special ed, those students that have been identified, and not just go off the test and that particular data. It needs to be a measure of, an eclectic measure of other things. So that's what I worry about, because I'm worried about him right now because, she doesn't know what to do. Right. So I'm really concerned about how the testing considers a child to be gifted or able to, be in the Encore program. So that's why I asked that question. But I want y'all to pay attention to that because I think that's important, because we're going to miss a lot of students who can be a part of this program, and we miss them because of things that they may need more support on. So that's my comment.
Okay, I found my question. If we're looking, I know that in the past, when we moved our GATE teachers to school-based budgeting, everybody was told that they needed to have at least a part-time teacher. So if we're doing this based on the number of students enrolled in GATE for every school, if a school has enough students that would require a full-time teacher, is the school-based budgeting required to give a full-time teacher or just part-time still?
It's whatever the need is. So
Okay,
we certainly have a lot of schools that have the full-time teacher due to the number of students served.
Okay, I just wanted to double check, because I know in the past that the thought was, it's required for part-time, but then the principal gets to decide if they want to use more of their money to make it a full-time or not.
We meet the need.
But we meet the need. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I'm
Yes.
glad to hear that. Thank you. Yeah, go for it. Follow up.
Is there any circumstance where a school would not have at least a part-time GATE teacher in K through 8? No, okay. Just want to be sure.
Oh, okay. And here's my other concern, and I'm not sure. So when our GATE teachers were part of the Encore program, they had a separate base at Robertson Academy, which you headed up at one point in time, and you were kind of the principal of the program, not the principal of the school where the teacher was assigned to work. And that I found to be very helpful if a principal was not well-versed in understanding what giftedness was and what the students who qualified in that needed. Because if we saw a principal who did not really understand that gifted need, sometimes you would have principals saying, I need to pull you away and go do testing. I need to pull you away to be a proctor over here. I need you to watch this class over here because we don't have somebody. And not having that principal be their official direct boss allowed the teacher to be able to say, that's not my job. I have to provide services to these students. And then that principal would have to contact you if they wanted to change anything. Without that backup, how are we ensuring that our teachers for gifted and talented are not being pulled to do anything else if a principal feels that that's where they should be instead of teaching our students?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, now it's a shared ownership, and there's a commitment on the House. Speak for Dr. Bellamy, but there's a commitment from the Division of Schools to back up the need, as you mentioned, that these teachers are there to serve students. Other needs cannot be met before meeting the needs of the students. So there's been increased education, I think, with our principals around this role. Now that they own the role, they take more ownership of having that person and utilizing that person effectively. So I do think it is a different day than perhaps when 2013 when I was there. But there's still continuous conversation around that. And if we know that there are issues, then we certainly go out and address them.
And I think that a better way, not a better way, but a different way to describe that is we've leveraged a centralized model here. We've leveraged a decentralized, and we've kind of struck a balance of the two to have those checks and balances around the role of our gifted and talented teachers and their roles and responsibilities. So to Matt's example there, if something is out of whack, we've got a support hub team here that helps coach and that helps monitor what that looks like daily for our teachers within our buildings.
So is there like a path if a teacher feels like they're not meeting the needs of their students, that they could reach out to you or reach out to?
Certainly, it's open communication. They've got Andrea as their teacher support, they've got Gina as their program support, and they've got me at the executive level support, and Dr. Bellamy has made the commitment as well.
Okay, wonderful. All right, that has been a long time concern of mine, and I think that we need to, that falls back under the making sure that we are training our principals and teachers in the importance of this program and the desperate need of these students. Just because they already understand a subject doesn't mean that they should have to be stuck in that same level just because they already know it and they'll do well on a test. We want to push them. We want to continually push them. So that's all the questions that I had about GATE. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to ask? Before we close up, I wanted to just kind of follow up on some of the questions that we had from our last meeting. One of them was, how are you addressing the need for teacher training on mindset, including recognizing implicit bias? And that was a follow-up question, so just kind of, if you could expound on that.
Dr. Bellamy, thank you.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, implicit bias training. Obviously, we partner with Ashford Hughes. You've all met Ashford and seen his wonderful work. And so as we look at the scope of rolling out significant trainings of that magnitude across a district this size, partnership between Ashford's office and my own at how we build site-based teams that can keep that training going year-round and not be a sit-and-get model that you just come get from the support hub during the summer. Stays on the forefront. And so when we talk about implicit bias as it relates to not just identification of giftedness, but possibly how we conduct discipline referrals, any number of things that happen in a school, it's certainly a deep need and something that we look forward to bringing forth in a comprehensive professional learning plan in the spring as we onboard a director of professional learning. And again, Mr. Hughes and myself will be partnering. We'll be partnering with, I would point to Dr. Springer, but she moved. Does anybody know where Dr. Springer went? There you go, Chief Springer as well, as we look at all of our SEL supports that we integrate into academics. So I wanted to step up other than just from an advanced academic side. I'll let Mr. Nelson talk about that as well here in just a second. But from the Division of Schools side, we're really focusing on how we build comprehensive structures to make sure that training goes on in a systematic way. And we get away from a sit-and-get model or even just a log into a virtual training, that's done by the support hub. So we want to equip our schools so that they can make sure that that stays in an ongoing way.
And then the last one, and then maybe we'll have a little bit of extra time, is our early post-secondary opportunities. And one of the questions was, how do you plan to communicate with families so that they know about those early post-secondary opportunities? And that includes families who speak different languages.
Yeah, so the timing for that is now, because we start the course requests and the course registration, master schedule, all of that is coming up in January and February. And so we will be engaging with principals to have those conversations around courses. Our goal is that all schools will increase their EPSOs. There's a need there, there's an appetite for that, but in order to do that, we have to start now. We have to lay before the students, these are the opportunities that are available to you so that courses and sections and all of that can be built into the master plan. And so that's part of our conversation we have with schools right now. Once we have all of that in place, then of course there'll be a comprehensive communication plan. There's a lot of work going on in that area right now with Through Better Together, through New Skills Ready. There are communication subgroups on all of those different working committees to address this.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
coming
much.
out. And it was good to know more. And I will go ahead and close out the end of it.